Or unlimited?
Unlimited.
Unlimited. Can Krishna expand himself?
Yes.
Yes. Can Krishna expand himself in identical features and in looking different than him features? He's unlimited, right? So the answer is yes. Otherwise he'd be limited. So, is Krishna limited or unlimited?
Unlimited.
Unlimited. Can he expand himself both as features that are in his likeness and features that look different? He's unlimited. Yes. One of those unlimited expansions of Krishna is named Rishabdev. Rishabdev. Rishabdev is an incarnation of Krishna, and Rishabdev had 100 sons. It's a lot of sons. Your mom and dad had just 2 daughters. He had 100 sons. And the oldest of those 100 sons was named... Anyone? The oldest, besides Paramarupa. The oldest of Rishabdev's sons was named... You can't answer either.
Is it Bharat? Is it Bharat?
Bharat. Yes. Very good. So Bharat became the next king after Rishabdev. So there's some very nice instructions in Canto 5 of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Rishabdev is instructing his 100 sons, headed by Bharat, about the duties of life. And there's a breakdown of those sons because, one of the 2 P's. Okay, so one group of those 100 sons became kings. Rishabdev was a king. So commonly, if the father's a king, the son becomes a Kshatriya, or assist the monarch, the chief king, the emperor. They assist in royal duties. So some number of sons did that. 11 did that. 80 became brahmanas. And 9 of them, so 11 plus 9 plus 80 makes 100. So 9 of those sons became perfected souls beyond any varna. Varna means occupation. So beyond Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. They were beyond. And they are not spoken about in the 5th canto further, but they're spoken about again in the 11th canto. And they attained a state that was like similar to, equivalent to Narada Muni. That's how elevated they were. Now who was Narada Muni the son of? Lord Brahma. So he was a Brahmana, and Narada Muni was able to travel anywhere in the universe, and even anywhere in the spiritual world. That was one of his distinguishing characteristics. And he did so by playing upon his veena, and singing names of the Lord. Radhika Ramana Namine. So the 9 of the sons of Rishabdev, they came to that standard or level of attainment, spiritual attainment. They had no desire to be fulfilled. They weren't sightseers. They didn't go here and go there because they wanted to take some digital pictures and send it back to Dad, you know, and something like that. They had one purpose. The one purpose was delivering pure consciousness to persons who were entangled in worldly consciousness. And they went here and there for that purpose. That's all. They didn't have any other purpose. They were already Atma Rama. Atma Rama means they were satisfied at the platform of the soul. Like Shukadev Goswami is another example of Atma Rama. There's a famous verse in the first canto of Bhagavatam, the Atma Rama shloka, that refers to the fact that Shukadev Goswami, when he was born, he was already fully Brahman realized. Fully Brahman realized means, on the positive, he knew the absolute truth, not only theoretically, but he was absorbed in that realm, the spiritual realm, consciousness-wise. And on the negative side, he was totally detached from anything that's of the temporary side. Totally detached. As Rishabdev, later in Rishabdev's life, after he renounced the kingdom and turned it over to Bharat, he stayed for some time in the palace, and then he just went out and in a mood of absolute renunciation from any consideration of the world. He didn't even clothe himself. At times he would just lay on the road. That's an interesting description. Like a python. That meaning, if food came to him, he would eat, and if not, he wouldn't eat, and he'd just lie on the ground. As if he was an avadut, as if he was a madman. But he was showing, in a particular way, an extreme form of detachment from anything temporary. So Shukadev Goswami had that detachment. Yet, when he heard verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, he became attracted. Not attracted to anything material, but attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam means the Bhagavatam is all spiritual. There's nothing material about it. So he came back to the ashram of his father, Vyas, and he studied along with other students. He studied Srimad Bhagavatam from his father. And then he spoke Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. So like Shukadev Goswami was totally detached, these 9 sons of Rishabdev, they're called the Nava Yogendras. Nava means 9. And Yogendras, the kings of yoga, Yogendras. So they traveled all over the universe. And they didn't even need a veena. They didn't need a mantra. They were very powerful personalities. And one time as they were traveling, by providential arrangement, they came across one king whose name was King Nimi. Nimi. And King Nimi was engaged in a Vedic sacrifice. has, just like when you're chanting Gayatri or doing deity worship or performers of sacrifice, just like Vishwamitra Muni. You know what's Vishwamitra Muni? Yeah?
Yeah.
Who's he?
He took large ram to kill the demons.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, he took a vow of silence, correct? So, in that he began preparing for a sacrifice for the next day. He began the night before, and he observed fasting, and he observed silence. Right? So when Ram asked him the next morning, when can we expect these demons to come? Because it was a several-day sacrifice. He didn't even answer. Then the students of Vishwamitra said, he can't answer because he's taken a vow of silence. So, once you begin a yagya, or once you begin deity worship, or once you begin Gayatri chanting, those Vedic rituals, you don't stop. But when King Nimi saw coming in for a landing, so to speak, these Navyogendras, he stopped. And he stood up from the place where the sacrifice was going on. And he immediately began addressing them, saying, I don't know who you are, but I can understand just by your effulgence and your presence, your topmost personalities. And it's my great fortune to have you come. I don't know why you come, but let me take advantage of your being here, proper advantage, by respecting you and presenting to you questions about transcendence. Because that's the duty of a king, and it's the duty of great saintly persons like you to impart such knowledge. So he like left the yagya over there to the side and just started this long series of questions that's at the beginning of Canto 11, Chapter 2. And I'm going to read 2 verses from what, so there's 9, and one by one, the Yogendras, Nava Yogendras, take turns responding to his questions. And the first question is in the orbit of attaining such a state of attachment to the Supreme and detachment from matter that you're exhibiting. Attachment for matter, attachment to spirit, is the necessary requirement for becoming factually detached from matter. There's a artificial detachment from matter that you give things up, but in the mind, contemplation of those things that you gave up remains. Contemplation in the mind level. So, according to Bhagavad Gita, that's incomplete. It's artificial. What's not artificial is when the mind becomes attached to that which is fully spiritual. So the 2 verses I'm going to read, first one speaks that one. Then the other one is also important, which is detachment from the temporary. There has to be a willingness, as you're striving to become attached to the eternal, a willingness to let go of attachment to the temporary, not throw stuff in the garbage can, but attachment to. It's a fine line between having something and being attached to that something, and having something and you're not attached to that something. Because if you're not attached to something that you have, maybe you'll neglect it. Unless you're attached to the Supreme Person, then you understand it's meant for the service to the Supreme Person, so you're not attached to it, you're attached to the Supreme Person. And service to the Supreme Person. That's the complete, according to Rupa Goswami. You know who's Rupa Goswami? What can you say about Rupa Goswami?
He was one of the 6 Goswamis.
Yeah, he's one of the 6 Goswamis, right. And he's the foremost. After Lord Chaitanya, he's the number 1 in the line of succession after Lord Chaitanya. Very important person. And he teaches about what I just said. So say it negative. An incomplete form of renunciation is you give things up. But those things you've given up, if it's in relation, if they are in relation to Hari Sambandha Vastuna, and you give them up, it's artificial. They're not yours to give up anyways. The complete form of renunciation is without attachment to those objects, anasaktasya vishayan, without the sense of being an enjoyer of those objects. You, according to suitability, you engage those objects in service to Krishna. And that delivers detachment, and it delivers spiritual attachment. It's the art of living. In the world. Attachment to Krishna and detachment from matter, the injunction and the prohibition. So these 2 verses are speaking the injunction, and then it speaks the prohibition. So this is one of those 9 sons of Maharaj Rishabdev, who is speaking to the king, King Nimi, in response to a question he asked. It's a good question, and it's a perfect answer. So this is Canto 11, Chapter 2, text number 36 and 37. In accordance with the particular nature one has acquired in conditioned life, whatever one does with body, words, mind, senses, intelligence, or purified consciousness, one should offer to the Supreme, thinking, quote, this is for the pleasure of Lord Narayana. Narayana iti. And the Sanskrit phrase about according to one's nature is swabhavat, swabhava. Same word used in Bhagavad Gita, where Brahma karma swabhavajam, Kshatriya karma swabhavajam, Vaishya karma swabhavajam, Shudra karma swabhavajam. Swabhava means nature. Swa is one's own. Bhava, nature. Bhava can mean different things. In this case, it's the according to the modes of nature, or your nature, the nature you have acquired, given the particular body and mind that you have. And the particular body and mind that you have to do with so many lifetimes going that way. And then, so, having associated with the gunas in a certain way for so long and long and long and long and long, you acquire a certain nature. Just like these 2 peas in a pod, they have a certain nature. And so according to their swabhava, they display characteristics. And there's nothing good or bad about this swabhava or that swabhava. It's just differences. So according, the verse is saying, according to one's swabhava, and swabhava helps determine body, words, mind, senses, intelligence, and consciousness. Consciousness in the conditioned state, when connected to Narayana iti, for the pleasure of Narayana, then it purifies consciousness. And when you dedicate all of those things, body, mind, words, intelligence, speech, words and speech, to Narayana, it purifies the senses, purifies the mind, purifies intelligence, purifies consciousness. And then by that method of dedication to the pleasure of the personality of Godhead, everything gets lifted beyond the conditioned swabhava to come to the stage where you have your spiritual nature. You would say spiritual swabhava in a different application of the term, arising from the soul and the soul's relation to the Supreme, not arising from the soul's involvement with matter and its attachment to matter, affinity to matter in a particular way. It's a lesson of transcendence. So that's the attachment side, and the injunction, and then comes the prohibition. Something that I remember hearing many, many times from Prabhupada. In Vedic culture, wherever there's an injunction, whether it's spoken, whether it's explicit or implicit, there's a prohibition. Or whether it's a prohibition, there's an injunction. The do's include the do-nots, and the do-nots include the do's. So here's the do-not. Fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as the material body because of absorption in the external illusory energy of the Lord. Fear arises. I had an interesting exchange at the Texas A&M College Station, and fantastic program. I mean, it's a combination of many factors, but without detailing, it's a fantastic program. And even though it was Good Friday, the Friday before Easter, and the university didn't announce it well in advance, but the whole bus system of the university shut down at 2 o'clock, so the students couldn't come by bus that normally would come to the program by bus. Still, there were between 60 and 70 students. And the questions and answer session went on for quite some time. If I could tell you what some of the questions were, you go, also, wow. But here's one. A lady that looked like she's from Philippines or something, a little bit older, maybe a grad student kind of lady, said, so what you're trying to say is there's an Atma, the Atma is supposed to look up to Paramatma and see how Paramatma would like you to act, and then you do that, and that's the type of yoga you're talking about, right? Etc. So one student came up. I'm a PhD. There was a line of people that wanted to have some topic discussed further. So he said, I've reached the conclusion that the biggest obstacle in my life is self-centeredness and fear. And the fear is there because of self-centeredness. Because, I'm not independent. But if I'm thinking self-centered, the reality is something else, and therefore I'm fearful. Always fearful. So, I don't know what to do. What do you recommend? So fear arises when there's abhinivesh, or absorption, in dvitiya. Dvitiya means like duality, seeing something as existing separate from Krishna. That's material consciousness. Material consciousness is, I want to enjoy separately from Krishna's enjoyment, and so I have to see things as separate from Krishna. That's Maya. One's covered by Maya to see like that, because it's not so. And then the whole existence is fearful, because basically you're a thief. And you're afraid you're going to get caught, because you're a thief. So thieves, they're bold. In many cases, they're compulsive. But it's fearful. And they kind of, it's part of the thrill, I suppose, of being a thief, is the danger of, can I get away with it? Like gamblers, the thrill of, will I win? Anyway. Bhayam Dutriyam Abhinivesha Ishad. Isha is the personality of Godhead. Apetasya. Apetasya means one who has turned away. Ishad apetasya. Viparyayo smritihi. You forget who you are. You're deluded. You don't know who you are. You've turned away from the Supreme. You want to be the enjoyer of the temporary, and there's a fearful existence. That's the do not part. There's variations on the theme, but that's the theme of material existence. I'll do it again. The theme of material existence is absorption in the temporary. Fear, because I'm a thief. And in order to see myself as being the enjoyer of the temporary, I have to turn my back to the one who this creation is from. So, turning one's back to the Supreme, I forget who I am. As a spiritual entity, I get absorbed in the bodily conception. And it's fearful. So then the next part comes, here's the solution, or the remedy, the doctor's medicine. When the living entity thus turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his own constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. This bewildering, fearful condition is effected by the potency for illusion called Maya. Tan Maya Yato. Therefore, an intelligent person should engage unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, whom he should accept as his worshipable deity and his very life and soul. Tanmaya yato buddha abhajetam but yaika yesham guru devatatma. Just hearing Srila Prabhupada explaining that the Vedas say, you can't understand me just by reading and receiving the Vedic knowledge. The Vedas say you can't touch the understanding that I wish to impart without receiving this knowledge from the qualified soul, the representative of me in disciplic succession. Prabhupada's embellishment, but that's the message of the Vedas. So here's one of the Navyogendras, and one of them speaking to the king to deliver him from Maya, from thinking he's a king, and thinking he's a pious king, he's the performer of Vedic sacrifices, and doing the good things and avoiding the bad things, and I'm a good king. I'm a good person, so I'm going to prosper in this life and go to the good place in the next life. That's me. And the message from the Navyogendras is that's not you. That's a function you can perform in a temporary basis because you have a particular body just now, and that body's going to change in the next life and change in the next life. And so the essence is not the external activity, the essence is this going back to the previous. The taking one's swabhava, meaning body, mind, intelligence, speech, possessions, everything, and dedicating that exclusively to service to the Supreme. And then when consciousness becomes elevated to divine consciousness, and you're situated in divine consciousness. And when the body is finished, you go to that place where Narayana exists, or Krishna exists, or the Lord of Transcendence eternally resides. That was the method, and then so that's the injunction, and then the prohibition. Don't be absorbed in abhinivesh. Don't be absorbed in the temporary, in trying to be the enjoyer and controller, etc. of the temporary. We do things. We do practical things. We do those practical things with service, the mood of service to the Supreme, under proper guidance. Then, the bewildering condition of the living entity can be overcome. Now, that's a nice message. So, why we can't do it? Consistently. And we're Kali Yuga people. We're lazy, misguided, unfortunate, always disturbed. And especially when it hurts, then we are a little more attentive. And then when the hurting subsides, we become complacent again. So Krishna can be very kind to make it hurt a whole lot for a long time. Or a little light can go on and say, why put Krishna through that trouble? And instead, let me just keep the light on. So we can do that in a regulative way, sadhana, and then knowing that really it's meant to not just strive, but it's our nature, spontaneous. That's our life. That's who we are. And that's where the covering, this misidentification with the covering, upadi, is not how we act, or not how we identify. We may act according to our svabhava, but not identify with it. Is that possible? Someone's a student. I'll do my studies. Someone's a mother. I'll be a mother. Someone's in the workplace. I'll do my work in the workplace. Someone's a this and someone's a that, and according to different stages of life and different swabhavas, we we act in an appropriate manner. Without attachment. Well, it's not so easy. We're attached. It's really easy to get attached. Really easy to get attached to anything. Your favorite cartels, or your favorite redunga, or your shoes, or your dhoti, or something. Get attached to something. It's really easy. We're quite at home with being attached to the temporary. And the lesson is not just cut the attachment, but strive for attachment to the Supreme. So that's where the energy goes first, and following behind that energy that goes first is the detachment part. So in the beginning, just like what Srila Prabhupada did, he didn't give rules and regulations to his students. He gave the holy name and Bhagavad Gita and Prasadam. And then after some time, attachment to the spiritual master and attachment to the message, the name, and the Bhagavad Gita's message and instructions, the way of life of bhakti. Then came the detachment messages. So attachment precedes, that one helps the other, and without a willingness for detachment, the one isn't going to go too far. Attachment to Krishna is not going to go too far if one stubbornly holds on to attachments, not having things, but attachments to the temporary. A lesson that Prabhupada gave is that a devotee is more conscientious than a materialist, because the materialist is very attentive to what they're doing because they're attached to the temporary. And the devotee is attached to Krishna, and so it becomes more meaningful how to do something very nicely because it's for Krishna than when you're attached. I've had this experience. A devotee friend of mine is Bhakti Chaitanya Swami. He's from Australia, but his service is primarily, very widespread, but in South Africa, and then in different places in Russia. Very nice devotee. And one of the things that he loves is Vrindavan. And so he's made it an avocation that he takes pictures, still pictures and moving pictures and videos and all kinds of things about Vrindavan. He knows details about Vrindavan that even Dinabandhu doesn't know. He is really a lover of Vrindavan. So from time to time he's asked me, can you purchase some camera equipment for me, because in America purchasing by eBay is a fraction of what it costs over here in South Africa. Fantastic, some service. So the specific lens, this and that is purchased on eBay, and then carrying them to India to see him at our GBC meeting. And my experience is, I'm so conscientious about those camera lenses, more so than anything else that I'm carrying, because it belongs to him, and it's for him, it's for his service. And so it's not like, big relief when I finally can hand it over to him. It's a satisfaction. But I'm just sharing. Consciousness goes to that which is for another person that you care a lot about, then even your own stuff. One time I was carrying some money for somebody. It wasn't too, some $500 or something like that. I put it in a very special place, and I'm more concerned about the money that belonged to somebody else than, you get the idea. When you have the consciousness that this belongs to Krishna, and this is meant for Krishna's service, you're more conscientious. You're more conscious and more conscientious about it, because it's for Krishna. And that's the art of living. In a life of detachment, you're not detached from the thing, you're attached to the person, and therefore the thing takes on even greater importance. Like, being parents. And, it's natural that mother and father have some affection and attachment for children. It'd be terrible if it was otherwise. And even greater is attachment to Krishna, and these are our spirit souls, or Krishna's parts and parcels, entrusted to us to deliver from the cycle of birth and death and deliver them to Krishna. Wow. That's attachment to Krishna consciousness, and it doesn't mean I don't care about my children anymore because I'm attached to Krishna. It's an even greater sense of attachment because it's in relation to Krishna, etc. Expand that to anything. And so now back to these verses by the Navyogendras. If one who becomes inattentive, ishad apetasya, by turning your back to Isha, to the Supreme, viparya yo smritihi, you forget who you are. The attachment to the temporary takes over. Fear arises, and one's totally bewildered. And it may be, a happy bewildered. It may be a sad bewildered. Things are going great. How's things? Things are going great. And then comes the truck and runs over the grade. The kaleidoscope turns and the whole picture becomes a different picture. Just a little, boop, then another picture. And then the great becomes, misery. And we don't know when that kaleidoscope is going to turn, when the picture is going to change, when it's going to become good fortune becomes ill fortune. We don't know. One thing we know is it's not temporary, it's not permanent, it's all temporary, whatever it is. So what's next? It's the fear of the unknown. Now there's a nice verse, I'll end with this. Bhagavad Gita, Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha. This is how the verse begins. Bhagavad Gita verse. One has to, the yogi, the person who's the bhakti yogi as well, needs to overcome those three things. Attachment, fear, and krodha, anger. So fear is this very thing. It's this verse that I just cited, it's quoted in that verse of Bhagavad Gita. You can't just overcome fear by saying, I'm macho. No fear. Look out, here I come. That's a bluff. It's the remedy is go to the positive. Just like this PhD student at Texas A&M. It was a smart man. He had a couple other questions that were also good questions. But he kept pursuing that because that's been his realization of late is, I'm self-centered. And even they may try to do something that's selfish, it's self-centered. I'm thinking, you know, what a good person I am because I'm doing something that's for other people. It's all about me. And I can't, it's like tar, it's stuck to my hand, I can't get rid of it. Take my other hand and try to, now it's stuck to both hands. I can't get rid of it. Selfishness. And with that selfishness, fear. What do I do? The Bhagavatam gives us those answers, and then there's a very rich purport, you can read it later. 11 to 36 and 37. And if you don't have a Bhagavatam set in your home, please get one. And then when you get one, periodically, regularly, you read from it. And it will, the light goes on. The darkness is dispelled. It's like that. Okay, any discussion? Yeah.
Maharaj, you were talking about a bit of free from attachment, fear and anger.
Yeah.
So, specifically I want to focus on anger.
Oh, why?
Because I get angry a lot as a kid.
Oh.
So I want to analyze.
Did they get angry at you when you get angry at them? Yeah.
So the thing is that I have heard or I think that there is some part of the anger which is which is healthy. Like if something is about to go wrong with the child or they're really doing something which is not good for them, so that anger is more like stopping some danger coming, or it may not be an imminent danger, but like some habit leading to a dangerous habit. So I want to analyze that, like, first of all I want to validate whether that's correct or not. Is there...
It depends. The answer is it depends.
So would you like
Depends on the consciousness behind. This past week I heard Prabhupada describing exactly this. And in some cases, it's a duty. But if it's done out of duty, it's one thing. If it's done out of love, it's one thing. And if it's done just out of arising from the mode of passion, it's not going to achieve the purpose. It's contaminating to the consciousness of both the person who's angry and the one who's the anger is directed towards. Doesn't result in elevation. It may result in an immediate change of behavior, but it's not going to result in something any deeper than an immediate change of behavior. In some cases, it just gets, you tell me no in an angry mood, I'm more determined to do it. It's just, fire results in fire. So it depends.
So what is another way of
Dealing with
like, a child
risky situations. There's a little, I'll call it a booklet, there's a small publication on discipline in Gurukul, where Prabhupada was being interviewed in Dallas about discipline. And the teachers were saying, Prabhupada, the classroom gets wild sometimes. And so, is it okay to discipline? Prabhupada said, show them love. And then the yeah, but, and yeah, but, and yeah, but, and yeah, but. And you've heard this explanation before, right? So, when they swung around and said, okay, no discipline, show them love. And when they actually swung around, then Prabhupada said, then you can discipline. Because when the discipline comes, they'll understand it's from a place of love. But then he used, an Indian term, I don't know if the Westerners understood it. You can show the stick, but don't use it. I was at a home program, probably heard this one too. We were sitting on the ground with a projector in front of me, and the projector had this, or the power for the projector, and I had something for sound, and something for my computer. It had a little power strip. And the mother saw her son reaching for the power strip. She didn't say anything. It was right in the middle of the presentation. She just raised her finger like a stick and went like this. And the son pulled his hand back. I complimented both the son and the mother later, privately, because he was moved by love. There's discipline, but she didn't have to use the stick. But it could have been, could have harmed himself or whatever, harmed the projector, the projection, if he fiddled with the electrical outlet. And he's a bright boy. That's bright boys can be a little playful, but controlled by his mother, controlled by his mother's love. Now, I don't know what else goes on in the home, in the day-to-day, but that's the basis. How to execute duties when something enters into or may enter into a danger zone. You put the brake pedal on. And if the silent hand motion doesn't work, then something a little more firm. An ideal, this is me speaking, I'm not a parent. Ideal is later on, when emotions have cooled out, you can explain. Give the why to explain the what. From the place of love is part of the why, and then here's the practical reasons why. This was not control of the senses was required. And if there's an understanding, it takes more time to give a why rather than just what. But when there's an understanding of why, then it's easier. And then, when the child is a young adult, they know the why. Because mom may not be around to say the what. And they start experimenting with things that are detrimental. So behavior control is one thing, and love is another thing. And part of love is, the voluntary spirit has a why to it. It could just be, I trust mom, and whatever she says, that's good enough for me. But if it comes from a place of anger, you're going to get rebellion. Usually. Unless, it's the two P's example. And they'll probably just do it because they're happy. Anything else? Yeah?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, can you please help me to understand a little bit more about the psychophysical nature, and what are the things constitute the psychophysical nature?
Well, that's broad. You just take the elements that are there from Bhagavad Gita and see, where is the match? And commonly, there is something of a hybrid in our modern circumstances. Not all of this or all of that. Not buckets and everything's in a bucket. Natures are something of a mix. But you see, those are the symptoms. What's coming to mind at the moment is competitive spirit, as a for example. And that's a Kshatriya principle. It's a passion principle. And where this middle planetary system is a place of passion. Madhye tishtanti rajasa. So, education and career and so forth and so on are built on competition. That's the culture. It's a passion culture. But it's very strong. The passion is towards money, not protection. It's not higher principle. It's just created. So, like this, the classic is the coin in the book with the swabhava. So a parent or a teacher or anyone that's a qualified person guiding others who are looking up to them needs to have some sense. Krishna gives the sense. Should be guided by scripture. What's the nature? And then give resources according to the nature. Along with doing those things that are according to one's nature for the higher purpose, for self-realization, for serving God. Look at the verses. It's elsewhere besides Bhagavad Gita. Those verses in Bhagavad Gita. It's in the Bhagavatam. You can, study the principles, and then you practice seeing nature. You'll see there's a mix, but there you see some characteristics that are outstanding. Some children like to study because they want to beat the next guy or girl or something. They just get very competitive. And some, they just like studying. They like studying. They can sit and peacefully. It has another nature. I won't mention where, but recently visiting one boy, just sitting there for hours, very peaceful. And I looked over his shoulder to see what he's doing, and it's intelligence building exercises and workbooks, and discriminating this from that. It's an IQ builder. And very peaceful, very absorbed, undisturbed by anything that's going on. So nature is very clear, and so he's given resources to match his nature. And there's another boy that's running around and doing this and that. He wants toys. He wants, a director's set. He wants to build something.
Maharaj, is the intelligence factor, one being very, very sharp and other being dull, is that also constitutes the psychophysical nature?
It depends. It can be circumstantial. Put something that's of interest in front of a child, and they're not dull anymore. They're wide alert. So, that's so simple. You had something.
Yes, so building on the attachment, detachment, and also the parenting related question. So as I find myself getting more and more into understanding the concepts, and because I'm a,
Sure.
I don't know, neophyte or whatever the word
Okay,
is,
okay.
but pretty new. I find that in myself, getting more into the spiritual concepts and having an affinity towards it, not forcing myself, I tend to lose ambition in the material sense of the word. Like I don't care anymore. Even
I got
even
it.
in terms of raising kids, like okay, it's like I don't find myself like how normally parents would be, pushing their kids to do, setting goals and
Yes.
reaching certain goals. I mean, it's there, but from a spiritual angle. But then it's like, okay, am I doing the right thing for them, because they still have to live in the material world?
Okay, I hear two things, and I'll see if I'll say back what I heard. The first part is the classic, which is, as I grow, it's not just anyone. As a parent, or as a human being, as my spiritual life goes on, I'm losing the affinity for the temporary like I used to have. Students, I'm not really attracted to my studies anymore. I used to be competitive, but now, just
What's the use?
yeah, it's all material, and I really want the spiritual thing. So it's an incomplete, it's an immature. So what's needed for such a person is, okay, it's limited and temporary. Same as with the discussion yesterday, antavatu palam te sham. It's limited and temporary. Now, is there a purpose for that limited and temporary in service to Krishna? The answer is yes. So let me rework my motivation set. And how can this limited and temporary thing be offered to Krishna in loving service? Because here I am in the limited and temporary realm. How do I take this limited and temporary thing and offer it to Krishna in such a manner that is pleasing to Krishna? So whether it's the student or the worker in the workplace or the mother or whatever the application, it's just replacing the material motivation with the spiritual motivation. Purpose, goal, which connect with the other question that you had. The other question that you had, is just say back what I heard, is as a mother, is it okay as a mother to teach my children spiritual goals, knowing that they're living in the material world and they have to deal with the material world. They have to have some accomplishment in the affairs of the material world. Otherwise, am I doing my parenting job properly? Because then they're going to be deficient.
And adding to that, even when we learn things about Vaishnava etiquette and being tolerant and all the nice things, when you're with similar people, it's okay to be that way, but when you're out with other people, sometimes
Okay, this
it's...
is the third question. Let's deal with the second one, and then we'll go to the third one. I'm quite familiar with the territory. And I'm giving essence answers and not details, because you and the children we're all individual. Similar to this example I gave of studies, seeing the nature of the dependent, in this case a child, what's their nature? So I want to equip them with skills that's going to help them be successful according to their nature. And if the spiritual emphasis is there, then their spiritual nature will also grow. And because of the spiritual nature, if I have understood, then I can at least pass on the opportunity for them to understand. This is something that you can use in Krishna service too. I do it all the time. Like all the time. With young people that reach this stage, I'm losing interest in academics. So there's a purpose behind those things. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. Thank you. So, what's that higher purpose? So if you have an understanding of that higher purpose, you can pass on the higher purpose, and then the children will be inspired beyond what the materialistic competitive students are interested in, the same subject matter.
So if we can elaborate on that.
Yeah.
Same thing on the
Let's say
subject,
science.
Right.
Let's say science.
Right.
I don't know. Do you like math and science? Do you like English and literature?
I like math and science.
Okay, me too. So, that can be used in Krishna's service. Now, yeah, but Mom, it's just, it's godless. Everything is mechanistic. That's what we're supposed to learn in school. I don't want to learn mechanistic. God's out of the picture, and everything comes from chemical evolution, Big Bang, and all that stuff. I don't. So, and my dear son or daughter, that's how the world thinks. So, learn it. And as you're learning it, read the Bhagavatam, so you also know, the Vedic paradigm. So you're sitting in the classroom, you don't have to challenge the teacher, saying, rubbish. But you can know where it's coming from. You can understand the workings of this one. You can understand the workings of that one. And your faith doesn't have, you can get an A in your exam and know how the whole thing works. Just like, just with in St. Louis, there's a congregation member who is from Orissa, and he has his PhD, and he's now a professor at Washington University, really prestigious college, in physics, and I think it's even theoretical physics. So he knows all this physics stuff. Then he married a devotee wife. Now he's learning all the Vedic stuff, which is how do the two things fit together? So he's being encouraged by Jamuna Jivana, who works with the college, to learn this even better than the people that don't know anything about the Vedic paradigm. And it's something that Prabhupada encouraged. So as Prabhupada encouraged it, you can encourage your children to learn math and science, super duper, for the purpose of being really clear about the Vedic paradigm. And, it's really, really high, but there's this nice book, Mechanistic and Non-Mechanistic Science. There's non-mechanistic science. And the person who wrote the book was a PhD in math. His name is Sadhaputta, or Richard Thompson. And I'll give one example that your daughter can go, wow, that was cool. So there's a chapter where he studies inspiration and gives examples of Mozart would go for a walk in the forest, in a path, and as he's walking in the forest, this whole symphony would appear in his mind. Then he'd go back to his house and write it all down. A whole symphony. I mean, not a few notes. A whole symphony. Inspiration. Or other examples of, because he's a mathematician, Sadhaputta, there are historical examples of persons who were decades before their time of solving math problems that no one could solve with principles that weren't even discovered in theoretical math yet. And just in a matter of seconds, boom, it all fell into place. And they wrote it all down, published. Later on, they found the pieces that were missing through math, and it all fit together. So how did it get there? That's the question, inspiration. The mechanistic model is, it's the brain that's just processing electrochemical charges at the end of the synapse of the nervous system. So then they have this, science says, how many events at one synapse can you have in a period of time? And how many synapses are there in the brain? And you do the math, and he multiplies it out, and it's mathematically impossible to compose a symphony in a matter of seconds, just by inspiration. Mathematically impossible. Laws of probability theory and 10 to the 100th power. It's not possible. Not possible. And then these other examples and others. So when you, by math and science, inspiration can't be explained the way that science, modern science is explaining, or biology. All there is electrochemical events in the brain, and that's what consciousness is. It's not a plausible explanation. So according to the laws of science, it's an unacceptable. Then you have to start looking for other models. That's the title of the chapter, is Models of Inspiration. So there's another model. There's a super intelligent super soul that imparted to this particular individual the understanding generations ahead of his time to understand the solution to a problem. Boom. That's a model. And it's not only a superlative model to the mechanistic one. The mechanistic one isn't even, it's just off the table. So now, he's a genius, this Sariputta, in my estimation. To do something like that, wow. And then all the other articles in that book. It's, when she gets to be high school age, or maybe be entering college, she can start reading that and appreciate the brilliance. Spiritual knowledge side by side with material knowledge. So it can be. There's an application for it, according to the gradations of our capacity. So use it in Krishna's service. Use that, the academic, learn the art of using that academic prowess in Krishna's service. We can give other examples, but that's good enough for now. Encourage for the right purpose. And so as a parent, when there's spiritual well-being, material well-being follows. Whatever the swabhava is of the child, when the spiritual swabhava is developed, the material swabhava is going to be amplified many times. Don't worry. Encourage the material side, as long as it doesn't cross lines of decency and respect of other living entities and things like that. Experimenting on rats. There's some lines we don't cross. One can navigate the territory of study and career and so forth that doesn't cross those lines. But cultivate side by side the spiritual wisdom. So you know that the two models side by side. And then you can speak elegantly and eloquently on both. With conviction. You're not just, a goofy person that doesn't know the material side. You know the material side very well. Here's what it is. And here's the spiritual side. And by character, you're balanced. That's another very important part of parenting is, your own personal character, aside from what you encourage and what you don't encourage. Now, the third one.
That question.
Yes. About Vaishnava etiquette.
Yeah.
And maybe some of the answer might be similar to the second
there.
one.
It's there. You don't, when you're in the devotees, your guard is down. When you're with non-devotees, your guard is up. But you're still who you are. You don't have to be, a chameleon. another persona, another personality when you're with non-devotees. And, well, they may take advantage. Let them try to take it. You know, Krishna will protect you. And don't cross the threshold of, you know, become obnoxious because they're obnoxious, or become insulting because they're insulting. You know, don't be drawn into Maya because they're in Maya. Be a transcendental personality. Now, when you're being a transcendental personality, you may be called upon, something similar to what Atuli was asking about. You know, you may speak strongly if the circumstance requires. But if you speak strongly if the circumstance requires, it's not out of self-preservation or protection or anger or, you know, don't tread on me, back off or I'm going to shoot you in the foot or something. It's, you know, it's purposeful. But you can do things that are purposeful if you're in the mode of goodness. You can call upon an appropriate speech or behavior that's appropriate, and then it's withdrawn. And you're peaceful. You're in this neutral, self-controlled, self-realized space. Now, some cases, it's just continue to be tolerant. In some cases, it's speak something, say something, do something. But you're in that space of etiquette, if it's appropriate. You say it. And if it's not appropriate, you don't. Appropriate has a lot to do with the other person and the circumstance and what's the outcome likely to be. And it's hard to judge sometimes what the outcome is going to be. But let it be from the position of the servant of Krishna, and here's Krishna's part and parcel, who may need some strong language. Maybe it's better if they just see, you know, undisturbed. That's it. So it's connection with Supersoul is required to make that discrimination. And that's what we're praying for, is connection with Supersoul, connection with Krishna. Please guide me in this, you know, tough situation of life, or difficult. How do I? And if you're accustomed to going there, it can happen very quickly. You know, in the moment. And if you're not clear, then don't react. And then later on, you can go back and say something that's needful if you feel it's appropriate to do so. But don't abandon Vaishnava etiquette because of the worldly association. Stay in the mood of service to Krishna and Krishna's part and parcel. And that's appropriate. As best you understand what's appropriate, you do that. To please Krishna and to help that soul come closer to Krishna. It takes practice. And you know, our conditioned nature is we just, you know, we react. And the transcendentalist doesn't just react, they consider pleasing Krishna. It just becomes second nature by practice and cultivation. And Krishna gives the strength, Krishna gives the intelligence. And the devotee's happy being under Krishna's care like that. And Krishna's happy with the devotee who feels happy being under Krishna's care like that. That's the reciprocation of love. A life of love with Krishna and his part and parcel living entities who are in different situations or serving. A nice life.
You make it sound very nice and easy.
But it's natural. It's nice because it's natural. The other is all artificial. Is it more than, is it like, you know, dreamland and it's not really possible, it's just like hyperbole? No. It grows incrementally. So, like gardening, you've done gardening?
I have a brown thumb, I try.
Huh?
I have a brown thumb, I try.
So, gardening, it takes, cultivation takes time.
Yeah.
And you have to pull weeds. You have to pour water. You have to pull more weeds. It takes time for something to grow. And you do it regularly, and then you have a nice garden. But you can't let it go, because then it'll get, all weeded up again.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Anything else? Or are we done? Yeah?
I recently went on a month-long trip to Varanasi and Tirupati to try and do some sort of sadhana.
Uh-huh.
Is it also a symptom of Kali Yuga that all the spiritual, like all these kshetras, these places, lose their potency and it really doesn't matter anymore whether you go there and do anything or not? Or because I tried to do something and it seems to me that I became more disturbed in those places because of people exploiting you or hassling you, and it's just it didn't turn out the way I was hoping it would be. So does it still have any significance?
Yes. And there are certainly persons that are offenders of the Holy Dham and exploit, the pilgrims that come to the Holy Dham and make a living of it and laugh. Now, even those people, we should be very careful about, holding anger towards those people, because they're in the Holy Dham. They're fortunate. They're misusing. They're bringing misfortune. At the same time, they're very fortunate. So now, the quick answer is no. It's not that those places lose their potency, but the potency becomes less accessible or covered by exploitative type people. But the potency is still there. And second is, when going to holy places, most important is association. So we'll make an offer. Next time you want to make such an experiment, check with the devotees and who should you be closely connected with when you go to the Holy Dham? Any Holy Dham that you like. And in the right association, then you can access. It's very similar to the verse that we read. Were you here for the reading of the verse?
Right now in the Q&A or before?
No, before.
I missed it.
Okay. You can read 11:2:37. And you can ask the people here. You can put it on your device if you want. People don't keep notebooks anymore. They keep their phone. 11:2:37, and it says that this needs to be applied under the guidance of a qualified spiritual master. So, under the guidance of a qualified spiritual personality, try experiment B, or experiment number 2, and go to a Holy Dham with proper guidance and association, and see if you can feel the spiritual potency of that Dham, and not be harassed by exploitative, abusive, offensive people.
Maharaj, I got you and the devotees some prasadam from Tirupati. So.
Okay. You can do what I do. You can go around and give some out. I brought some from Krishna Balaram. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
In that verse about Bhayam Ditya Abhinivesha, in that verse, it ends with Guru Devata Atma, like
Yeah.
that the spiritual master is the embodiment of all the demigods. What is the significance of that in this context?
The representatives of Krishna. It's just different language. You can say, other language says it's not different than the Supreme Lord.
Okay.
So it's just different language. Yeah.
Maharaj, when we hear the different pastimes in which there are demons and there's the good guys and the bad guys,
Yeah.
and then you hear that they are all a part of the Leela, and even the bad guys were Jay and Vijay, and they are all devotees. And
Not all of them are giant Vijay. No, but go ahead.
like I heard about Putana, for example, that even Krishna considers her even to be a mother, even though she was in the material doing such bad things.
Yes.
So, yes, maybe you answered my question. Like, when we read pastimes, should we keep our judgment on the side that, oh, he's bad and she's good, and just think of it neutrally? And just learn the lesson to be a devotee?
Not exactly. Because, the bad side of Putana was really bad. When her delight was drinking the blood of children. She was not nice. Despite, that was her specialty. Despite that, evilness of, so you can think that's evil. The behavior is evil. But Krishna is so kind that he overlooked that and delivered her. So, and that's and part of his kindness is even if they're got delivered in that way, Shishupal was given liberation. Now he was one of the Jai Vijay, Shishupal Dantavakra, but let's say all the other demons, Trinavarta and Shankatasura and this one, that one. They're in the Leela of Krishna to get Krishna's mercy, but the behavior is reprehensible. So, one of the necessities of spiritual life is to separate the soul from the behavior. And the behavior can be reprehensible, but there's acceptance of the soul on the soul level. So Krishna is reciprocating in that way. He addresses the behavior, but he's addressing the soul also, bringing perfection, bringing liberation. Yeah.
I have a burning problem for the past so many years. I'm
Uh-oh.
65 already. I don't have any problem as such. Krishna's grace, my life is cool. But still, I'm not able to stop this chattering mind. I don't know whether it is my problem or everybody's problem. So it's because of that. I don't have a problem. If I have a problem, if it chatters, it makes some sense. I don't have any problem as such. The life is considerably smooth enough. But still, because of that, 50% of the spiritual practices go mechanically. The total focus is lacking. I don't know what exactly has to be done to rectify this problem.
Abhyasa. The chatter has to do with absorption in the temporary. It's not just this lifetime. Who can say how many lifetimes of absorption in the temporary? And so the mind goes to the temporary. And while you're trying to go to the spiritual side, the mind goes to the temporary. And there's this struggle between the spiritual and the mind goes to the temporary. So, practice. Jiva Goswami refers to Patanjali Yoga Sutras to explain how that practice, or what constitutes practice, what constitutes sadhana or abhyasa. So it's just three things. every day for a prolonged period of time with faith. And faith is most important. The other two are also important, but faith is most important. So faith needs to be nourished because the absorption in the temporary is really strong. So the practice itself of specifically Bhagavad Dharma, or hearing and chanting of spiritual subject matters, it puts us in touch with transcendence immediately. But the mind chattering is still going on, so we don't get the full effect. So practice daily for a prolonged period of time, however long, and with great faith. So emphasis goes to the faith element. And maybe, especially on auspicious days or in auspicious places, one can engage in more quantitative and try to enrich the qualitative. That's the faith part. And Cheta Darpana Marjanam. Cheta Darpana Marjanam. Marjana means cleansing. Cleansing the mirror of the mind, or Cheta. Cheta Darpana Marjanam. The mind becomes cleansed by that process. It's not our endeavor alone. It's mercy, and we're taking up some endeavor, and we're depending upon mercy, that it becomes consummate in the chatter subsides, that the mind becomes cleansed. We can't do that. We have to make some endeavor, but the cleansing agent, like an advertisement for stronger than the mind, is spirit, the spiritual potency of sound vibration. That's the Vedic process, and heard from the right source. Okay, I'm going to end. Thank you all very much. Prabhupada, please.
Holiness Prabhupada Swami Maharaja ki jai.